Part 1. 100,000/Our Professional Stand-In. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 1. Ji Fanyan is dead. Then live again. When she regained consciousness, she was sitting wet by a sparsely populated river, with water dripping from the corner of her hair and clothes, trembling all over when the cold wind blew, and the mobile phone beside her vibrating without her eyesight. Ji Fanyan picked up the annoying mobile phone and glanced at it, and subconsciously picked up the phone displayed as Dad. The middle-aged man on the other end of the phone asked in a deep voice, "Where are you?" Ji Fanyan took the phone away and looked at it suspiciously. It was indeed Dad. "But this voice is not my father? Today is Xingxin's day to go abroad. All relatives and friends are in the hotel for her. You are her sister. What does it look like to be absent? How embarrassing is it for her?" The man gave a stern order, "Come to the hotel immediately, you know." "Where?" With a beep sound, the phone was hung up. Ji Fanyan, who was in a trance, held the phone and remembered, "Oh, my dad died 3 years ago. A new type of fraud." Thinking of this, she glanced at the darkened screen, and suddenly found that a rather unfamiliar face was reflected on it. Ji Fanyan suddenly woke up. She quickly unlocked her phone and opened the camera's selfie lens, and fell silent for the face that didn't belong to her at all. Even a well-informed person like Ji Fanyan was taken aback by the revival of the corpse. When she and self on the phone screen were relatively speechless, a prompt popped up at the top of the phone: "The application The Temptation to Go Home has been installed." Ji Fanyan. She exited the camera, found the app that was just installed, opened it and took a look. This is an app with rudimentary functions that is criticized. There is only a simple progress bar on it. At present, the progress is empty and a long list of numbers is written below. Ji Fanyan counted and found that it was 10 billion. She clicked the question mark on the upper right again, and then saw the instructions for using the app. You, who became a vegetative person due to a sudden accident, also have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to revive. As long as you earn 10 billion in the second fate, you can return to your body and wake up. As expected of The Temptation to Go Home, although Ji Fanyan was heartbroken, she didn't say anything about the amount. 10 billion, not 1 billion. Rather, there are very few people in the world who can earn this amount of money. What is the concept of 10 billion? Winning 5 million lottery tickets every day, without food or drink, will take more than 5 years to save enough. But then she thought that she had changed her body, and the gibberish of this weird app was not impossible to continue watching. Don't worry that the number of 10 billion is too high, because in addition to movable property, real property, and currency that can be directly recorded in the progress bar one by one, the emotional value you get can also be quantified and exchanged. Emotion refers to the feelings that others give to you, whether positive or negative. As long as the object attached is you, it will be automatically quantified when acquired. Ji Fanyan rubbed her phone and understood. Either, she makes many people love her, otherwise, she makes many people hate her. The explanation of the app ends here, and the last sentences, memory transmission starts, please cheer up. Ji Fanyan cut out the explanation and looked at the 10 billion progress bar speechlessly. A new memory was quickly packaged and transmitted to Ji Fanyan's brain, and just like a movie, the whole life of her current body was played in her mind. The body that Ji Fanyan brought back to life has the same name as hers, but there is a twin sister named Ji Xingxin. The two are identical twins, with similar appearance, but very different personalities. Ji Xingxin is lively and outgoing, and everyone loves her. She is the little princess of the Ji family, while her twin sister Ji Fanyan is a little transparent with a gloomy personality. Ji Xingxin has long sleeves and is good at dancing. She has as many ministers under her skirt as crucian carp crossing the river. She has a rich emotional life and never overturns. But after graduating from university, Ji Xingxin patted her ass and decided to expand overseas markets. No, she decided to study abroad. When Ji Xingxin's fish can't quench their thirst from far away, what will they do? Of course, I went to find Ji Fanyan, who is 8 points similar to Ji Xingxin, to pass the time. At the beginning, Ji Fanyan was willing to act as a substitute, because among those who were looking for a substitute, there happened to be a person she had a crush on, Song Xiu. But later, Song Xiu introduced Ji Fanyan to other men. She gradually became a public stand-in who didn't even deserve her own name, and those men would only call her Ji Xingxin. She committed suicide several times, but she was not even qualified to die. In the end, she was chained with shackles and seized her freedom. It was not until the day when Ji Xingxin returned to China that she was finally abandoned by these people, and she was able to throw herself into the river to die. He was only 26 when he died. Ji Fanyan, who has been famous in the circle in his last life, expressed his deep condolences to the life of the bun of the same person. Ji Fanyan stroked her wet hair freely, no need to wonder why she was sitting by the river wet now. Song Xiu has been in private contact with her for the past year. The two occasionally meet and date, but they never kiss or go to bed. But just yesterday, Song Xiu announced that he would cut off this relationship with her. The original body couldn't think of it and jumped into the river. Ji Fanyan. After a slack, he sat up slowly from the river, and first checked his account balance with his mobile phone. Fortunately, the Ji family is a well-heeled family after all. Although they didn't spend much money on their unloved daughter, their pocket money would never be too stingy. The two bank cards under Ji Fanyan's name totaled around 100,000 yuan. Ji Fanyan read the balance, turned off the bank software, and went to see the temptation to go home. The number in it had indeed changed, and it showed -9,999,863,520.00. No matter how rounded it is still 10 billion, and the progress bar does not see any change. But it at least proved to be progress. Then Ji Fanyan flipped through the address book again, matching those unfamiliar and familiar names one by one in his mind and memory. After finishing all this, she did not rush to check text messages and social software. On WeChat, there is a location message Ji Xingxin sent her a few hours ago: "Sister, don't look for the wrong way, eat here at noon today. My parents and I will go first, waiting for you." Finally, there is a very cute cat and cat rolling emoji. Ji Fanyan clicked in and looked at the name of the hotel, guessing that this is probably the place where Ji's father called and urged her to go to Ji Xingxin. Ji Fanyan, who was wearing soaked underwear, was thinking about finding a nearby place to buy clothes when her phone rang again. It is a person named Song Xiu. Ji Fanyan thought about it for a while, and then thought about it again, and finally came to a reaction: "Oh, this is the person Mai has a crush on." She laughed and swiped the prompt to pick up the phone. "Where are you?" Even if the tone of voice is questioning, the young man's voice is gentle and elegant, and there is a good upbringing in every word, which makes people unconsciously feel good. But Ji Fanyan has seen too many handsome men and beautiful women, and the threshold of temptation is too high. She was unmoved and asked lazily, "Why should I send her off?" Song Xiu was silent for a moment. "Fanyan, the matter between you and me has nothing to do with Xingxin. You can't resent your biological sister." "It's not impossible for me to go," Ji Fanyan replied casually while searching for the nearest shopping mall on the map. "I just got my clothes dirty, and I don't have any clothes suitable for attending the farewell banquet." Song Xiu paused and reminded lightly, "Even if I buy a dress for you, it doesn't mean there is any possibility of ambiguity between us, do you understand?" Ji Fanyan laughed softly, and she asked, "Then do you want me to send her off or not?" After a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, he chose to hang up. Ji Fanyan calmly called a car on his mobile phone and walked slowly up the slope. Before the car arrived, Song Xiu transferred 100,000 yuan to her when the text message rang. Ji Fanyan looked at the account balance and the extremely easy 100,000 yuan, blew a whistle, and when she went to check the temptation to go home, the amount had already changed to -9,999,753,520.00. Compared to just now, I got a full 110,000, and the details button popped up. Ji Fanyan opened it and took a look. 100,000 is Song Xiu's transfer, and 10,000 is Song Xiu's emotion. He just stimulated Song Xiu a little with words like this. Is his mood swing worth 10,000? Ji Fanyan put away her phone and laughed confidently. There is no way to make money in this world. Someone has an idea and steps out of the way. Although she just paid 100,000 yuan from Song Xiu's hands, Ji Fanyan didn't plan to buy any famous brand. After she arrived at the mall by taxi, she found an excellent store, and bought a special shirt, jeans, and a pair of high-heeled shoes. After trying it on, you can directly cut the label and pay the bill. The process takes less than 10 minutes and the consumption is less than 300 yuan. Before going out, Ji Fanyan lifted her long bangs in front of the mirror in the store, and took a closer look at this new face. With an oval face, phoenix eyes, high nose, and deep eyebrows, and fair skin, Ji Fanyan is certainly not ugly. But from the heart, Ji Fanyan has a withdrawn personality and is extremely afraid of life. The whole person looks submissive, and always likes to cover his face. It looks like his sister Ji Xingxin is like two people. No matter who it is, in such a pair of sisters, they will prefer the younger sister to the older sister. Ji Fanyan plucked her long hair that was not dry, and tied it into a ponytail. When she went out, she bought a popular lipstick at the nearest makeup counter. She put on lipstick in the mirror where she tried makeup with her eyes half drooped. After her lips that had been a little white from the cold were dyed tomato color, her whole face suddenly changed. Ji Fanyan lightly raised her eyebrows at her bright and moving self in the mirror. When a stand-in, we make money. When Ji Fanyan arrived at the hotel, she didn't rush in to look for the banquet hall of Ji's family, but just sat outside the door and watched the scenery for a while. This hotel is located in a quiet and remote mountain. From the lush winding mountain road, it is a good place for rich people to show their taste. Ji Fanyan stood on the side of the road and looked down, her eyes were downcast, her face was full of indifference. She used her mobile phone to inquire for a long time on the way just now, but couldn't find any relevant information about her former self. Obviously, here is another world. Looking down from this mountain is also a scenic spot that Ji Fanyan has never heard of before. Although the strangely appearing app cannot. It is certain that it is an enemy or a friend, but Ji Fanyan always has to catch such a life-saving straw. Her family and friends, and everything she worked hard to manage, were all in that world. As for the moment, we have to take one step at a time. At least according to the test just now, 10 billion is not as difficult to earn as imagined. Ji Fanyan shrugged, and was about to turn around and go in to find the troubled family when a young voice suddenly called her from behind, "Sister, why are you outside?" Ji Fanyan glanced back, it was a boy with unruly eyebrows. As soon as the eyes of the other party and her met, they were stunned, and turned to disgust. "Why are you? Are you not coming?" Smelling the faint smell of smoke on the boy's body, Ji Fanyan stared at him and thought for a while, then suddenly said, "It's you." The boy has a slightly strange name, called Bai Tian. Although he was only 19 years old and just a sophomore, Bai's net worth and background were among the best among Ji Xingxin's suitors. He was the prince of the Bai family in Yandu, commonly known as the kind of person who had a throne waiting for him to inherit. Bai met Ji Xingxin for a summer vacation in high school, and was crazy about her, so she just got into the city where Ji's family was in the university entrance exam. But there is nothing wrong with all the means. Ji Xingxin only said to him, "You are my most important brother, just like a real brother." There was nothing to do in the daytime, and he refused to give up, but who knew that Ji Xingxin actually planned to study abroad for 3 years, and was so anxious that he almost tried to get Huang Jixinxin's visa. According to the laws of this world, those who like Ji Xingxin must hate Ji Fanyan. This is an iron rule. In the daytime, the nose is not the eyes of Ji Xingxin's elder sister, who can't support the wall. Every time Ji Fanyan meets him, it is like a barrel of guns, and the crackling is very lively. Go in when you're here. If you're a few hours late, who are you waiting for? Today's protagonist is not you. Bai Tian snorted from his nose, and put his hands in his pockets to pass Ji Fanyan. Ji Fanyan walked calmly, and for a while it seemed that the two were walking together, making Bai Tian's face darken. My sister didn't tell you face to face, did she? Ji Fanyan asked openly. She actually hates the smell of cigarettes, and she wants to vomit every time she smells it. The daytime action that was about to break out froze. That's right, the prince of the Bai family is so honorable, even if she thinks so, she wouldn't dare to tell you. Ji Fanyan sighed again, it's so pitiful. Bai Tian grabbed Ji Fanyan's arm violently. What are you telling the truth? I grew up with her anyway. Ji Fanyan sincerely fooled the young man. With a cold face, Bai Yu threw her away and hurried away in the other direction. After a few steps, he violently took off his jacket. Ji Fanyan walked the other way with the day and followed the instructions in the hotel lobby to go directly to the banquet hall where Ji's family entertained guests. The banquet hall was already full of people, and the large screens on both sides were scrolling pictures of Ji Xingxin and her parents' daily life, traveling, playing, dancing, parent-teacher meetings. It looked like a family of three with a carefree family and a happy life. Another daughter? Anyway, no shadow can be seen from these happy photos. Ji Fanyan stood at the door and looked at the photos for a while, and was amazed. Ji Fanyan has had a really miserable life. He has done nothing wrong, but he has no status or presence at home. Before the suspicious eyes around him became more and more, Ji Fanyan started to walk towards the table in the front center. She heard the people around her talking blankly about her identity in private, wondering why she looked so similar to Ji Xingxin. When Ji Fanyan stood in front of Ji's father and Ji's mother, even the two of them stared at her for a moment. I'm sorry, I'm late for something. Ji Fanyan asked the waiter to add an extra chair and a set of cutlery. Said that everyone was waiting for her, but there was no room for her at all on this table. What kind of nonsense was she talking about? Yunyin, Ji's mother reacted before Ji's father, and she coughed slightly embarrassedly. It's so late, sit down and eat. Needless to say, Ji Fanyan had already sat down on the chair that the waiter had temporarily moved. Father Ji's face was gloomy, but he obviously didn't want to attack on the spot. He just glared at Ji Fanyan and said in a low voice, eat well, don't talk nonsense. Ji Fanyan responded lazily, took a chopstick and put the sweet longan into the bowl. People who have just committed suicide by jumping into a river need something sweet to soothe their souls. Her attitude of not listening to the bastard chanting scriptures made her father Ji very angry, but before the fire could be released, a business partner who had just arrived came up to talk, and Father Ji only smiled and shook hands. This is Xingxin, right? He grew up so fast, he's even prettier than those photos. The visitor looked at Ji Fanyan cheerfully and said. Ji's father was embarrassed. This is my other daughter, who is more introverted. The visitor was stunned for a moment, and the two sides fought tacitly. Haha. Ji Fanyan took a sip of the drink and didn't even bother to look back. Although many people in the audience are now watching her curiously, Ji Fanyan, who has been struggling in the entertainment industry, has long been used to being the center of the crowd. Just as Father Ji sent off this business partner, Ji Xingxin, who had changed into a small dress, came back. When she saw Ji Fanyan, she was stunned before she stepped forward to greet her affectionately. Sister is here, I thought you were too busy to catch up, that's great. Ji Xingxin is slender, with a red face and nose, full of youthful and full of seductive atmosphere, and a row of white and tidy teeth is revealed when she smiles. No matter which school she goes to, it is the standard of public first love. Ji Fanyan put down her chopsticks and looked at Ji Xingxin. It's a smooth journey. Ji Xingxin's expression was a little sad. She bent down and hugged Ji Fanyan, and whispered in her ear, "Does my sister actually hate me?" "No," Ji Fanyan raised her eyebrows and smiled, "I am very grateful for your existence. If Ji Xingxin is not so talented, how could she find such a simple way to generate income in the sea?" Ji Xingxin's expression after listening to the sentence is so subtle that it can be given to a film critic to understand. After 3 rounds of drinking, the atmosphere between the tables became more relaxed. During the day, he came back from the outside with a stinky face, and changed a set of clothes all over his body, even his hair was wet. After a while, a handsome young man was walking towards the main table. Ji Fanyan's eyes shifted on his face, and he recognized the other party. "This is Song Shiu. That's to propose marriage. It's funny, Ji Haiwang Xingxin has never been in love since childhood." In other words, Song Shiu, who was about to propose, was not even Ji Xingxin's boyfriend at all. Ji Fanyan smiled and prepared to watch. The one who knows a sea king best can only be another sea king. Ji Fanyan knew that Ji Xingxin could not agree. When Song Shiu held a rose and knelt down in front of Ji Xingxin, Ji Fanyan seemed to hear Ji Xingxin's broken heart amid the envious screams of the girls in the audience. Neptune raises fish, not suffering from the crowd but suffering from the unevenness. Not afraid of many fish, but eccentricity can easily capsize. As a senior sea king, Ji Xingxin could not fail to understand this truth. So Ji Xingxin could only be surprised, guilty, and politely rejected Song Shiu's rose, but as the person who was confessed, she kept apologizing, as if rejecting the other party was a big mistake and regret. Song Shiu has always been a gentleman. Even if the courtship fails, he will not embarrass his sweetheart, and can only leave sadly. After such a riot, it was difficult for the atmosphere of the banquet to return to the lightness of the past. It didn't take long for Ji Xingxin to leave under the pretext of changing clothes. She hugged Ji Fanyan again and asked sweetly, "Is my sister finally planning to change her image? I'm so happy." "Just be happy." Ji Fanyan touched the back of the other party's chubby head and said with expectation, "You don't need to change, just continue as it is now. Raise more fish, and maybe there will be a high-quality variety that I can squeeze out of fish oil." Ji Xingxin took a deep look at Ji Fanyan, got up and left with Ji's parents and Ji's mother. Ji Fanyan, who had eaten and drank enough to watch the show, also got up after the family of 3 left. She remembered that she had a car, but she still had to drive it out, and moved out to live at Jijiali by the way. Before leaving the banquet hall, Ji Fanyan's phone vibrated and received a text message. She opened it and saw that it was from Song Shiu, just 1 sentence, 4 words, "Come to the parking lot." Ji Fanyan raised her eyebrows, but did not delete it directly, but returned to Song Shiu, "Isn't it over? Do you think I'm still at your call, just like before?" Song Shiu didn't reply. Ji Fanyan stopped a taxi and drove away. The Ji family lived in a separate 4-story villa, and the security system outside the door still recorded Ji Fanyan's fingerprints and voice prints. She went in and packed her luggage smoothly, and it took a total of half an hour to leave with the suitcase. The aunt, the gardener, the guard, who came and went, no one asked her why she suddenly went out with a suitcase, and didn't even give her a look. Ji Fanyan was able to leave Ji's house smoothly. She went to the agency to rent a 1-bedroom house, with 1 payment and 3 signatures for 1 year. She only paid more than 10,000 yuan to go out, and checked in with her luggage on the same day. With her financial situation, she can rent a better house, but it is not necessary. Because it won't take long for someone to deliver it to your door. As soon as she thought of this, the prompt tone of the mobile phone rang. Ji Fanyan picked up the phone and saw that it was Song Shiu's call. "I'm outside the community." His voice was a little more muffled than it was during the day. "You come out now." "My sister has already boarded the plane," Ji Fanyan asked with a smile. Ji Fanyan Song Shia called her name warningly. Didn't you say it yesterday? This relationship between me and you will stop completely from today. Ji Fanyan, who was lying on the sofa, cocked her toes. Why should I go to see you? Song Shia casually said, because you like me, don't you? No, who made me like you? Ji Fanyan smiled back at him. By the way, does Mr. Song bring a bank card with him? 100,000 / Our Professional Stand-In. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 2. Song Shia leaned against the window of the driver's seat and lit a cigarette, but didn't smoke. He just watched the little red spark flickering out in the dim light. He had just bid farewell to Ji Xingxin at the airport in the afternoon. Ji Xingxin went to Paris, France. This distance was nothing to Song Shia. The plane could even go back and forth in a day, but the separation was still so uncomfortable. Therefore, Song Shia naturally remembered the existence of Ji Fanyan. Although it was only yesterday that he mentioned ending the private stand-in relationship with Ji Fanyan, this was an obvious renegade, but Song Shia knew that Ji Fanyan would not refuse. Who made Ji Fanyan like him? Recalling Ji Fanyan, who showed all his facial features at the noon practice banquet, Song Shia's heart moved slightly. For the sake of this heartbeat, after talking to Ji Fanyan, he drove from Ji's house to the address she sent. It was an apartment building on the edge of the first ring of the city center. Song Shia's cigarette was only lit by a finger, and someone came out of the elevator. He looked up absently. Seeing this, I couldn't take my eyes back. So similar. It wasn't until she walked in front of Song Shia wearing a white lace wide-shoulder dress and smiled, the latter came back to her senses. Ji Fanyan. Ji Fanyan smiled and spread out a hand towards him, palm up. Even if he knew that this person was Ji Fanyan and not Ji Xingxin, Song Shia's attitude unconsciously softened. What do you mean? Charge system, Ji Fanyan said. Her voice also changed slightly from usual. If I had to say it, I was more like Ji Xingxin. Therefore, Song Shia was not angry. He even smiled and said with great interest, are you so short of money? It's less than you think. Ji Fanyan nodded, not ashamed. Song Gong's family has a big business, isn't it bad? I can give you the money. Song Shia pressed the cigarette butt to the car window, not at all worried that the expensive glass would be burned. He asked meaningfully, but can you meet my request? Since it's a fee-based service, of course reasonable requests can be met, Ji Fanyan replied calmly. If he hadn't known Ji Fanyan for so many years, and knew that Ji Xingxin was already on the plane, Song Shia would have doubted whether the person in front of him was Ji Fanyan himself. Then you learn to bark and listen, he said with a smile. Song Shia looked noble and bookish, and even uttering the word dog bark in his mouth seemed so slow and reasonable. Ji Fanyan was a little surprised to see his expression. Is this image of my sister in your heart? Song Shia chuckled, mocking Ji Fanyan's over-the-top comparison, but you're not your sister. No, Ji Fanyan rejected him lightly, I only provide one service, which is to play Ji Xingxin. If you don't accept it, I'll find another client. She smiled and tucked the hair on her cheeks behind her ears, revealing her white ears. I believe there will always be someone who needs it. Song Shia looked at Ji Fanyan's nonchalant attitude, smiled and lit a second cigarette. This time, he took a sip, and frivolously puffed the cigarette on Ji Fanyan's face. Okay, just take it as an apology for spending so much time with me before. How much is it? Ji Fanyan took out the tablet behind him and smiled. The business has just started, and the fee table is relatively simple for the time being. Song Gongza will take a look. Song Shia lowered his head and glanced casually. It's really simple, but also very detailed. Working hours, Monday to weekend, 9 to midnight, only by appointment, 1-to-1 service, no on-call service is accepted. Service content, in addition to acting, it can be put forward at the time of booking, and reasonable requests will be accepted as the case may be. Price, from 100,000 per hour. All journeys and preparations are not included in the paid time. Less than 1 hour is counted as 1 hour. We are not responsible for any additional expenses during the service period. Premium: if you cannot make an appointment in an emergency, or you need service outside of working hours, the premium will be calculated at 2-10 times, and the service can start only after both parties agree. Charges: pay first and then serve, no credit is allowed, and you need to indicate the gift when transferring. Song Shio gave him a smile. 100,000 an hour? Ji Fanyan, do you know how much I will pay for a celebrity to accompany the wine? Ji Fanyan smiled, then I have to try it to find out. Are male stars and female stars the same market price? It was the first time that Song Shio saw her showing her last dignity and refused to show weakness in front of him, and he pressed the tablet back with a bit of mockery. Ji Fanyan, this is how you get rid of love. How to get hurt? Sell your body. Ji Fanyan had a "what are you talking about" expression on her face. This is selling wisdom and energy. Do you know how energy-consuming acting is? Okay, I'll play with you even if you face this face. Song Shio tapped the tablet with his knuckles, and he whispered maliciously, tomorrow from 11 to 2, 3 hours, but I want to see you. To Ji Xingxin, not Ji Fanyan, can you do it? Ji Fanyan smiled and took back the tablet and replaced it with an app. In order to ensure the quality of service, Master Song should do a questionnaire first. Song Shio. After getting the questionnaire that Song Shio filled out according to his temper, he confirmed that he had received it. After he transferred 300,000 yuan, Ji Fanyan hummed a tune and walked back to the elevator with Wind. When she entered the elevator and turned around, she found that Song Shio was still looking at her from a distance of more than 10 meters, without moving a single step. The cigarette he had only smoked gleamed scarlet at his fingertips. Ji Fanyan, who had just finished slaughtering the victim, pressed his floor button and waved good night to Song Shio in a good mood. When the elevator door closed, Song Shio's face was also shut out. Ji Fanyan didn't care about his attitude just now. As long as he can easily take the blame, this attitude can be completely ignored. When she got home, she lay down on the sofa and raced against time to study the questionnaire Song Shio had just completed. This set of questionnaires is relatively short for the time being. It was made by Ji Fanyan racing against time when Song Shio drove over just now. The content is also very simple, mainly to refine Song Xingxin's behavior and habits in Song Shio's mind, etc., so that it is easy to imitate. In addition, there are some personal preferences of Song Shio. In short, it is for the purpose of providing better service and cutting leaks better. Although Song Shio is a dog who doesn't talk much, he can't stop him from being rich. Ji Fanyan drew the questionnaire while thinking about who else could develop in Ji Xingxin's fish pond. Daytime. At least his eldest young master is also rich. After researching the questionnaire thoroughly, Ji Fanyan got up lazily and went to the bathroom to adjust his expression in front of the mirror. What is not very friendly to the leaks, or is too friendly, is that she, Ji Fanyan, happened to be a Grand Slam queen before her death. It took Ji Fanyan 20 minutes to figure out the state of Ji Xingxin. She kept a sweet and cheerful smile and opened the temptation to go home and glanced at it. Song Shio generously provided 300,000 yuan and a small amount of emotional fluctuations. Although these credits were like a drop in the bucket for 10 billion, it was only half a day. It is a feat to earn more than 400,000 yuan. I also have 500,000 in my bank card. As expected of me, Ji Fanyan put down the phone, carefully selected the clothes to wear when going out tomorrow in the closet, put on a mask and lay down safely. Tomorrow is a day to deepen the impression of leaks and to continue cutting leaks in the future. You must take good care of your health. Song Shio sat in the dining room and chatted with Ji Xingxin on his mobile phone. Ji Xingxin has just arrived in Paris, and is replying to her friends one by one that she has arrived safely. Even Song Shio, who had an embarrassing scene with her yesterday, did not leave, but sent a voice over. I'm here. Paris is fine, and so am I. You. How are you? Song Xiu sighed softly. Besides deliberately not replying to this message for a few hours, what else could he do to get angry with Ji Xingxin? Song Xiu deliberately edited a gentle and polite message in the dialog box, which conformed to his image as always. Before he clicked send, the door of the box was knocked. Song Xiu glanced at the time displayed on the phone, 1 minute to 11. Ji Fanyan was really on time. Come in, he replied casually. The moment the door was twisted open, the same voice that had just come from Song Xiu's mobile phone was sent to his ear by the wind. You arrived so early, did you wait for a long time? Song Xiu looked up at the door with 2 points of surprise, and stood up unconsciously. No, I just arrived. That's good, I'm afraid you'll be bored waiting alone, let's order food quickly, I'm so hungry. The visitor walked up to him with brisk steps, stood still and smiled sweetly. Agree today. Please invite me. Song Xiu could even smell the common perfume on the other party's body, and he hummed subconsciously, of course, how can I ask you to pay? Sit down and look at the menu, Xin. When he was about to call out that name, Song Xiu bit the last word suddenly, and he was bumped head-on by a huge, uncontrollable shock and anger. He actually took Ji Fanyan as Ji Xingxin just now? Song Xiu still remembered that as long as he mentioned Ji Xingxin in front of Ji Fanyan in the past, the other party would show an annoying and hurt look, which was nothing like Ji Xingxin. Just like now, she will definitely be the same as before. Chen Yu, don't you want to sit? Ji Fanyan asked suspiciously. She had already picked up the menu with a straight face. Song Xiu stared at her for a moment, recovered from the previous atmosphere, hooked the corner of his mouth, but his expression was cold. Ji Fanyan, who taught you this trick? Think that as long as you imitate Ji Xingxin, you can expect what Ji Xingxin has? Ji Fanyan blinked, she unlocked her phone, and shook it in front of Song Xiu. Song Xiu saw that there was a countdown showing 2 hours and 57 minutes left. Ji Fanyan answered his question with Ji Xingxin's smile and Ji Xingxin's voice, probably a bank account. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 100,000/Our Professional Stand-In. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 3. Ji Fanyan flipped through the menu. No matter what Song Xiu, who was sitting across from her, was thinking about, in short, the restaurant he chose was very tasteful. Just look at the price. And today's dating consumption was met in Song Dynasty anyway, and Ji Fanyan specifically confirmed it to him just now. The only troublesome thing is that at this moment she can only order dishes that Ji Xingxin likes. For the sake of not having to pay, Ji Fanyan can bear it? Well, just order this creamy mushroom soup with crisp crust, basil shrimp balls, and this fruitwood slow-cooked ribeye steak. As for the drink, you can taste the lychee and cherry blossoms according to Ji Xingxin's taste. Ji Fanyan, who had selected the meal, looked up at the man who was sitting across the table with an uneasy expression, and asked him suspiciously and worriedly, "What's the matter, are you losing your appetite? If you can't eat it, don't force it, let's go back. Of course, there will be no refunds if the service is terminated early." Song Xiu's expression was gloomy and uncertain. He looked at Ji Fanyan deeply, as if to see through the mask on her face. When did you start preparing? Forget it, it doesn't matter. Of course it doesn't matter. Ji Fanyan fiddled with the menu and smiled at Song Xiu. Our transaction is very simple, you don't need to think about anything, just treat me as another person during this period. You are not always think I wasn't like her enough before? Am I enough now? Song Xiu narrowed his eyes slightly. What I'm asking you for is not a troublesome exchange, Ji Fanyan smiled lightly while holding her chin. It won't cause any trouble for you by leaking secrets to my sister. You don't have to look forward to it. Song Xiu, who was sitting opposite, let out a mocking sneer. Besides, someone like you, who is so inconsistent in appearance, who has always only been polite in front of my sister, doesn't have a thought in her heart often. What thoughts? If she knew my true character, would she hate me? Ji Fanyan said calmly. Ji Fanyan Song Xiu sat up in warning. Don't be nervous, I said I won't tell her. Ji Fanyan spread her hands, you don't dare to face her, but I can fulfill this fantasy for you if it really doesn't work, that's it for today. Bar. Song Xiu can be said to be a genuine two-faced person. Judging from his extravagance and modesty when socializing, few people know what kind of rotten person he is in private. People who hide themselves so deeply are really not suitable for deep friendship. It's okay to maintain a friendly relationship with his equally bottomless wallet. Song Xiu listened quietly for a long time, then hooked the corners of his mouth as if he had figured it out, his expression relaxed. Ji Fanyan, you brought this up, don't regret it later. Ji Fanyan smiled, no, don't worry. Song Xiu turned his eyes away and pressed the service bell on the table to call the waiter. As if abandoning some burden, he thoughtfully and tenderly asked Ji Fanyan what dishes he wanted. After the two ordered the order, they chatted about the recent daily life like old friends for many years. Ji Fanyan studied Ji Xingxin's circle of friends and Weibo overnight, and she responded fluently, but more often she played a qualified listening role. If you want to ask why, of course there is only one reason. Men are too eager to express themselves in front of the women they like. When Song Xiu continued to talk about his work and life sentence by sentence, Ji Fanyan smiled and used a clean knife and fork to deliver the disassembled mussels to his plate. Song Xiu's voice stopped. What's wrong? Ji Fanyan looked up at him suspiciously. Didn't you always think that mussels are not easy to remove, so you don't like to eat outside? That's fine, right? Song Xiu stared at her so hot that it felt like it could leave a mark on her skin. After a few seconds, Song Xiu said slowly, no, I didn't expect to be noticed by you, thank you. We are friends. Ji Fanyan neatly took out the other two mussels and put them on Song Xiu's plate before continuing to eat his own steak. A friend who just knelt down and courted you yesterday? Song Xiu asked suddenly. Ji Fanyan hesitated for a moment. She was thinking about what Song Xiu's words meant. If it was the real Ji Xingxin, she would definitely refuse Song Xiu again in embarrassment, but there is a problem here. Ji Fanyan plays Ji Xingxin, who Song Xiu wanted. In other words, maybe Song Xiu wants to add fantasy pie to the stand-in pie. This service is not impossible to provide. Ji Fanyan spent 2 seconds clearing her thoughts, then raised her eyes shyly and asked Song Xiu, can we eat first, and then discuss the answer to this question after eating? Song Xiu lowered his eyelashes, of course. Ji Fanyan was able to eat a Western meal that cost thousands of people per capita, and it was a waste. When it was time to check out, Song Xiu really took the initiative to take the bill from the waiter, and paid the bill without blinking. Ji Fanyan kept staring at him, and when the man turned his head and raised his eyebrows at her, he smiled and cheered. Men are very handsome when they pay the bill. The corners of Song Xiu's mouth twitched slightly, barely visible, going for a walk to digest? The lakeside scenery is very good. Ji Fanyan stood up 3 times in the Song dynasty. Fingers pressed down one by one under his doubtful gaze. 3, 2, 1. Ji Fanyan's cell phone, which had not moved during this lunch, beeped. The gentle smile on Ji Fanyan's face disappeared in a second. She picked up the vibrating mobile phone from the table, and gave Song Xiu a look at the countdown on the screen. It's time. Song Xiu's expression seemed to have just been hit with a baseball bat on the back of his head. Ji Fanyan smiled and turned off the countdown sound. Welcome next time. Next time, Song Xiu will of course come again. He was already addicted to it in less than half an hour. Ah, what kind of love is there for a man who will find a substitute? Ji Fanyan picked up her bag and walked outside the box. After just 2 steps, she stopped. I almost forgot, There are 2 after-sales investigations I want to ask Master Song, but if you don't plan to meet me again, I won't ask. How do you feel? Song Xiu stared at Ji Fanyan without saying a word. Ji Fanyan raised her eyebrows. It doesn't seem necessary, so let's block each other now to show our innocence. Song Xiu squeezed Ji Fanyan's expected response word by word from his teeth. I can afford this money. Okay, question 1, it's more convenient to keep this relationship underground, right? Ji Fanyan asked straightforwardly, otherwise everyone knows that my sister is abroad, but you and I often meet, and people see, isn't it bad to hear it in her ears? Of course, Song Xiu replied without thinking. His fingers irritably played with the fountain pen that had just signed the bill, from index finger to last finger, and then from the last finger to the index finger anxiously. Understood, then next time I hear a proposal like the scenery by the lake is very good, I'll know how to answer. Ji Fanyan ignored Song Xiu's expression and asked, question 2, do you want me to play my sister? Hang out with you, or stay friends? Song Xiu sneered, Ji Fanyan, you want to associate with me in her identity, right? Then let me ask another question. Ji Fanyan didn't get angry, she smiled, do you want this acting relationship to be the same as reality, or to follow your fantasy? For example, when you mentioned yesterday's incident, she could agree to become your person? After that, she's your girlfriend and can date you, call you, show love to each other, all of that. Song Xiu's eyes froze for a moment in Ji Fanyan's slow narration, and the signature pen fell out of his hand and fell to the ground. With a bang, the pen fell to the ground. Song Xiu also seemed to be awakened by this sound, and he said mockingly, put away your tricks, Ji Fanyan, I will not associate with you. Understood, next time this happens again, I will reject you as she did. Ji Fanyan bent over to pick up the pen and handed it to Song Xiu. When Song Xiu met a ghost, he stretched out his hand to pick it up. But Ji Fanyan put the pen directly on the table, and frivolously made a phone call gesture to Song Xiu, see you next time, remember to make an appointment. Who else would eat your tail wagging begging for pity besides me? Song Xiu asked. It's hard to say, Ji Fanyan thought about it seriously and replied, I develop other customers, what's your business? Song Xiu's face darkened visibly. Ji Fanyan waved her hand indifferently, and left the private room alone. The waiter at the door gave him a strange look, as if wondering why they didn't leave together. As long as Song Xiu was not so addicted to the chat just now and left 10 minutes earlier, Ji Fanyan could accompany him to leave the restaurant. But Song Xiu fell into a fake role after a brief entanglement, and he didn't even notice the change in time, if not. Ji Fanyan, who was staring at the phone screen, stopped abruptly. Just now, she subconsciously opened the temptation to go home and took a look, but the numbers inside had changed drastically. I clicked on the details and saw that it was Song Xiu's contribution to the emotional income, which was a full 90,000. Although I don't know what emotional struggle Song Xiu experienced in his mind during the 3 hours, but Golden Leak gets square root. With loving eyes, Ji Fanyan specially created a group of customers in the address book. After pulling Song Xiu into it, he set up the function of prompting during the Do Not Disturb period of the mobile phone for this group. She hummed a little tune and went to the nearest My Lao dessert station to buy cones, wondering when Song Xiu couldn't help calling her for the second time to make an appointment. Shouldn't it be long? After all, Song Xiu's birthday is coming, and Ji Xingxin can't rush back from Paris to celebrate his birthday. 100,000/Our Professional Stand-In. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 4. On the night of the second day after meeting Song Shi, Ji Fanyan wore glasses and perfected her money-making plan at home. Song Xiu didn't call all day, but Ji Fanyan wasn't worried about whether the hooked fish would run away. She marked Song Xiu's birthday on the calendar, and organized and archived everything about this person. Simply put, a file is created for important customers. In 3 days, it will be Song Shiu's birthday. In other words, the call must be received the day after tomorrow at the latest, right? After finishing the work, Ji Fanyan glanced at the time on the phone. It was nearly 10 o'clock. She took off her blue light glasses and stretched, and when she was about to put on a mask and go to sleep, a video call request popped up on the computer, from Ji Xingxin. In just a few seconds, Ji Fanyan was about to close the computer. It is worth noting that in fact Ji Xingxin did not neglect Ji Fanyan like her parents and friends. On the contrary, she has always maintained a proper closeness to Ji Fanyan. When Ji Xingxin's plane landed, Ji Fanyan was one of the first to receive her call. Thinking that Ji Xingxin is her own wealth code no matter what, Ji Fanyan sat back in the chair and answered the video call. Usually on the internet, Ji Xingxin's face jumped out quickly. She was sitting by a floor-to-ceiling window full of sunlight, wearing a gray shirt. This inhuman color was softened infinitely on her body. "Sister, are you going to sleep?" Ji Xingxin adjusted her white headphones and greeted with a smile. "If you're half a minute late, I won't be able to receive the video." Ji Fanyan took a sip of water. "The weather in Paris is nice." "Indeed, it's very rare." Ji Xingxin held her chin and pursed her lips slightly. "I just arrived in Paris a few days ago, and I already miss the sunshine at home a little." 3 years is still a long time, Ji Fanyan said lazily. Perhaps her attitude was too peaceful. Ji Xingxin was stunned for a while before asking, "Sister is in a good mood, did something good happen?" Ji Fanyan was ambiguous. "I figured out something." "Is that so?" Ji Xingxin lowered her eyes and pondered for a few seconds. "Sister, I want to ask you something. Can you not be angry after hearing this?" "What's up?" "Me and Shiyu just spoke on the phone yesterday." Ji Xingxin's eyes flickered. She almost asked cautiously, "He told me something about my sister. In fact, that's why I called you today. I want to apologize to you. I didn't know that you liked the occasion. If I knew, I should have behaved better in front of you." She paused in embarrassment, as if she couldn't think of the words to use here. "Anyway, sister, I'm sorry." "What's the conflict between my liking him and his liking you?" Ji Fanyan leaned back in the unergonomic chair and asked casually, "Why did you apologize to me?" Apart from her own cowardice and fortunately not knowing how to refuse, those shameless men who caused the tragedy of Ji Fanyan were the culprits. Although the family members who ignored Ji Fanyan were not innocent, they had to be there. The second ladder of evil. Ji Fanyan was too lazy to think about why Ji Xingxin suddenly made this call to apologize. She was too lazy to care about the previous love, hatred of this group of people, as long as she didn't delay her making money. Ji Xingxin patted her chest and let out a sigh of relief, then smiled, "Sister, it's great if you don't mind. I'll keep a distance from the occasion in the future." "Don't worry, sister, I won't be with him." Ji Fanyan answered noncommittally, thinking, "Song Shiu, miserable." Ji Xingxin asked across the computer again, "Does my sister still like him now?" She asked without any scheming, as if she was just talking casually, innocent and sweet. So Ji Fanyan answered casually, "Loving is not something you can give up overnight." "I still like him," Ji Xingxin repeated with a smile. "I see." Ji Xingxin seemed to be calling for this matter. After this conversation ended, she quickly hung up with Ji Fanyan saying good night. Ji Fanyan closed the thin and light laptop, put the glasses on it, and threw this matter to the back of her mind. It wasn't until she checked the temptation to go home account details on the third day that she realized something was wrong. It was after 10 o'clock the night before yesterday, which was almost the time when the video ended. Ji Xingxin contributed a total of 160,000 emotional credits. After that, she contributed several other records one after another. Yesterday, Song Shiu and Ji Xingxin almost recorded 2 emotional points. They must have talked about her when they were chatting. The details and the role of the detective were unexpected by Ji Fanyan. She leaned back in her chair and pondered, Although she didn't know what mental activities Ji Xingxin was doing in that short video call, everyone's mood swings were quite violent. It's no wonder that the broken app has to separate the emotions as an explanation. But it is also, the emotional fluctuations in the dog blood drama have always been violent, and the plain dog blood is not called dog blood. Stand-in literature is an evergreen tree in dog blood themes. Staring at Ji Xingxin's 160,000 for a while, Ji Fanyan tapped the touchpad to open her own plan, pondered for a moment and made a few changes. Well, occasionally it can be appropriate to stimulate the big emotions at home. In the middle of the revision, Ji Fanyan's cell phone rang. Her typing on the keyboard stopped for a moment. The phone is in Do Not Disturb mode, and only one user group can call in. And in that user group, there is only one person lying down now. Ji Fanyan didn't let Song Xia wait long. She turned the face-down phone over and put it to her ear. Hello. Song Xia's voice was a little tight. Tomorrow, all day. Okay. My working hours are from 9 in the morning to 24 in the evening. Ji Fanyan listened to the phone and finished the final revision of the document with one hand, opened a schedule of online updates, and selected the length of tomorrow's work. A long column. Are you sure to make an appointment for 15 hours? Confirm, Song Xia said solemnly. I will send it to you later, that's all. The transfer is reserved, Ji Fanyan calmly reminded him. Song Xia hung up the phone without saying anything. In just 1 minute, Ji Fanyan received the transfer from Song Xia, as if 1.5 million were just a steel shovel thrown into the water. Ji Fanyan likes the style of treating money as dung. It was Song Xia's generosity that made her have 2 million in her bank account. Although the countdown to go home is still full of -9,997,637,851.00, at least the beginning is going well, isn't it? Ji Fanyan smiled and closed the temptation to go home, opened Song Xia's chat window, and began to accept customer service requests. Song Xia was obviously thinking on the spot, so he asked to send it one by one, fast and slow. Ji Fanyan waited patiently, until Song Xia didn't move for 5 minutes, then she asked with a good temper, is that all? Song Xia showed the other party is typing. For a long time, and finally only one word was sent. Ji Fanyan replied with a thank you boss emoji, copied the scattered chat records into the document, and prepared for tomorrow's work. Song Xia's request was not too much trouble. He even delivered the matching skirts, shoes and jewelry to Ji Fanyan's address that night. When Ji Fanyan was knocked on the door, she thought it was a takeaway, but she knew she was wrong as soon as she saw the female clerk in a suit and skirt and the first line big name box in her hand. After receiving the gift box, Ji Fanyan didn't try it on immediately, but pondered for a moment and took out her phone to check it. Song Xia gave gifts worth 80,000 yuan. Sure enough, chattels and real estate are counted in the same way as bank transfers. Ji Fanyan threw the expensive skirt on the bed and laughed. 10 billion seems far away, but it is not impossible to achieve. Just look at how long the leaks can grow. Song Xia deleted all the mean words, and finally frowned and typed the word in the input box, scribbled it to Ji Fanyan, and then threw the phone to his side, out of sight. After returning from the last meeting with Ji Fanyan, Song Xia began to feel weak. In the past, Song Xia only liked to look at Ji Fanyan's face, and felt that it was worthy of Ji Xingxin's twin, but as long as Ji Fanyan moved and spoke, he immediately became different from Ji Xingxin. He clearly knew that Ji Fanyan was not Ji Xingxin, but Ji Fanyan was the living Ji Xingxin in those 3 hours. After Ji Fanyan left that day, Song Xia was so annoyed that he almost threw the cup in the Western restaurant. The day after he went back, he called Ji Xingxin out of the blue and tried twice before Ji Xingxin picked it up. Her voice was still the same happy and relaxing. Chen Yu, do you have anything to do with me? Well. Song Xia paused, but said without any burden, there is one thing I have never told you, your sister likes me, and she confessed to me. How could Ji Xingxin was surprised and blamed herself. Then you confessed to me the day before I left, my sister must be very sad. If I knew this, I would. You don't have to do anything, she knows I like you and what I'm going to do that day, she accepts it. Song Xiu comforted his kind sweetheart, you don't need to feel guilty, I just think about it and feel that you should know about it. Ji Xingxin was silent for a while, and then sighed on the other end of the phone. She said quietly, so my sister likes you. But I only like you, Song Xiu said affirmatively. The moment he said this, Song Xiu almost immediately felt that the depression in his chest dissipated, which made him feel relieved. Yes, the only person I like is Ji Xingxin. However, 2 days later, Song Xiu received a call from Ji Xingxin again. She sobbed and said, I called my sister, and she said she still likes you. You, can you stop liking me? I don't want to make my sister sad. Song Xiu was silent for a long time. I'm sorry, Xingxin. I can meet many of your requests, but I can't do this. When he hung up the call, Song Xiu could almost taste the faint smell of rust in his throat, as if he had just been punched in the chest. Ji Fanyan can no longer be contacted. If Xingxin finds out, she will definitely be angry. Song Xiu, who thought so, endured for a day. Just one day. The last time, and then really broke up with her. Thinking like this, he called Ji Fanyan, tomorrow, all day. 100,000/Our Professional Stand-In. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 5. The next day was Song Xiu's birthday. Ji Fanyan got up early, did a full set of skincare, makeup, and hairstyle, and finally put on the outfit that Song Xiu sent. Before going out, Ji Fanyan glanced at the full-length mirror and smiled at the quiet and beautiful self inside. The funny thing is that Ji Xingxin is not such a person by nature. Both she and Ji Xingxin are playing this illusion, and they are still deceiving the same person. This is so funny and absurd. On the way to the destination set by Song Xiu by car, Ji Fanyan carefully reviewed the service requirements he raised yesterday. Song Xiu's request is difficult to say, and it is not easy to say it is simple. All in all, it means one thing. Song Xiu and Ji Xingxin obviously quarreled. It's really interesting, Ji Xingxin's level of seeking should not miss the slightest. In other words, she should be intentionally making Song Xiu unhappy. But it's not a bad thing for Ji Fanyan, because Song Xiu turned around and used money to find happiness. When the car stopped slowly on the side of the road, Ji Fanyan picked up the phone and got out of the car, and glanced at the time. There are 10 minutes to 9 o'clock. Ji Fanyan unhurriedly went to the nearest Star Carry to buy 2 cups of coffee, one of which was specially selected by Song Xiu. Ji Fanyan took a cup in one hand and was about to leave the store when she saw the daylight passing outside through the glass of the coffee shop. There are impatient teenagers surrounded by peers of the same age, with outstanding facial features, tall stature, red lips, and white teeth. Even standing in the crowd is the focus of everyone's eyes unconsciously. Ji Xingxin had just left for a few days, and of course her suitors were in the worst mood. He was still going to school in the daytime, so he must not live with Ji Xingxin in Paris, France. Ji Fanyan remembered that his parents were very opposed to this and temporarily confiscated his passport. Ji Fanyan took a sip of the warm latte in his hand, smiled and looked away from Baiji, and walked away from the front door with brisk steps. She just walked on the front foot, and then walked into the coffee shop with her companions in the daytime. Amidst the chatter of his companions, Bai Tian frowned and glanced up at the store. His eyes were tightly grasped by the figure that disappeared from the corner of the floor-to-ceiling window in less than a second. Ji Xingxin's back is impossible for him to admit wrong. Bai Tian chased after him without a second thought, pushed open the glass door through the crowd, almost rammed across the entire storefront, and then turned left to chase the back. She has come back. Isn't she still in Paris? The young man had tall legs and long legs, and he ran as fast as lightning, and he quickly found the back from the crowd. As he approached, he subconsciously slowed his pace and called out unsurely from behind, "Sister." The other party stopped, turned around and smiled. "You admit it wrong for the second time, can't you tell the difference between the people you like and the people you hate?" The slightly softened expression on Bai Tian's face instantly disappeared. He frowned tightly, and read out the other person's name in disgust, Ji Fanyan. Young Master Bai Ji Fanyan nodded slightly at him. "You imitate your sister's dressing style." Bai Ji looked at her condescendingly. "Do you think Song Xiu would love Wu Ji Wu and you like this?" Ji Fanyan asked curiously, "How do you know that I hope Song Xiu likes me? Song Xiu has said it a long time ago, and I only kept it from my sister, for fear that she will feel sorry for you." Bai Tian put his hands in the pockets of his coat and sneered, "It's not a secret that you like Song Xiu at all. Everyone knows you're beyond your control." He thought that Ji Fanyan would be humiliated by these words to the point of tears. However, Ji Fanyan just hummed thoughtfully, then raised her head and said, "I'm still rushing to work, you can do it yourself." Bai Tian watched Ji Fanyan leave with 2 cups of coffee, and his heart was swiped by a group of alpaca mythical beasts. But he quickly realized that using the words of national scolding against Ji Fanyan was no different from scolding Ji Xingxin, and immediately took it back. Looking at Ji Fanyan's back in the daytime, that figure is slender, beautiful, and confident, and is not the same person as Ji Fanyan, who used to be obedient. Does Ji Fanyan work? Didn't she become a homeless person after graduation? Ji Xingxin threw Bai Tian on the spot, not afraid that the arrogant he would get to the bottom of it. In Bai Tian's heart, she is the kind of person at the bottom. Even remembering a name is a gift, so you don't have to worry about Bai Tian wondering what she is doing. Of course, the day will be a good leek, but it will not be planted in a pot as easily as Song Xiu. Ji Fanyan waited for a while at the place Song Xiu said. A black low-key car stopped in front of her, and the passenger door opened automatically. Ji Fanyan bent over and handed a cup of latte to Song Xiu in the driver's seat, and smiled at him. "Happy birthday. Have you had breakfast? I bought you coffee." Song Xiu looked at her, as if she hadn't adjusted yet, and without a word, took the paper cup and placed it between the seats of the two of them. Ji Fanyan pulled up her skirt and sat in the car, closed the door, and said while sending her seat belt, "Bought a new car? I've never seen you drive this one before." Song Xiu stepped on the accelerator and absently said, "Well, I just bought it yesterday." Ji Fanyan understands, it's a private meeting, of course, it's not good to drive the car you used to, and it's not good to be recognized by others. "By the way, I saw Bai Tian just now, and he seemed to be out with his classmates too. Come and play." Ji Fanyan told Song Xiu badly, and said hello to me. "Hello in the daytime." Song Xiu paused. "Did he admit you wrong?" Ji Fanyan smiled while holding the coffee cup. "He said hello to Ji Xingxin, that's right." Song Xiu frowned. "You didn't say anything superfluous." "How is that possible?" Ji Fanyan interrupted his useless worry. "I didn't come to see him today, how can he compare with you?" Song Xiu. He didn't speak, but Ji Fanyan felt that the speed of the car seemed to be a little faster than before. When passing by the cafe just now, Ji Fanyan casually glanced over there. Daylight stood at the door, still in a posture that no one loves with his hands in his pockets, his bushy brows frowned together to squeeze out an unpleasant crease, and there were 4 words all over his body. "Don't suffer, Lao Tzu." The companion smiled and said something by hammering his shoulder, but he turned his head away impatiently. "You laughed," Song Xiu asked suddenly, "what's outside the window? Another chive?" Ji Fanyan thought. Then she turned around and replied without any difference, "I can see your reflection on my car window. You used to ride in the driver's car, but today seems to be the first time you're sitting in your passenger seat. Today is my birthday, I just want to spend it with you too," Song Xiu said. He seemed to have finally entered the state, and the tone and demeanor of his speech began to become natural. Okay, Ji Fanyan said more easily than him, where are we going now? Song Xiu smiled, chocolate factory. Ji Fanyan really didn't expect Song Xiu to come to a place like the chocolate factory. How should I put it, that is, it's not very compatible with him, whether it is a person or a person. But Ji Fanyan is not incomprehensible. This poor man just wanted Ji Xingxin to send him a special chocolate. To this end, he not only spent 1.58 million to buy a car, but also booked the chocolate factory for a morning. I've never made handmade chocolate before, Ji Fanyan wondered. I don't know how to make it, and I might accidentally make it unpalatable. It doesn't matter, as long as you do it yourself, I will like it very much. Song Xiu's tone was gentle. Of course, you are the first person to accept my handmade chocolates. If you don't like it, wouldn't I be very shameless, Ji Fanyan said as a matter of course. These two sentences are repeated over and over again to convey the same meaning. You Song Xiu is the first time I made handmade chocolates for Ji Xingxin. The customer was really happy when he heard it, and turned on the stove and boiled water. Ji Fanyan took the handmade chocolate making guide given by the staff seriously, and felt that it was not difficult, so she squeezed Song Xiu, carefully melted the chocolate, and slowly stirred it in a small bowl heated by water. What shape should I make? She flipped through the mold to observe Song Xiu's reaction. Song Xiu's eyes swept over the various molds one by one, and finally landed on a heart shape. It's so easy to predict. Ji Fanyan couldn't help but think. Which one do you like? She asked. Song Xiu coughed lightly. It's fine. So Ji Fanyan directly picked up the heart-shaped mold that was actually quite delicate. I like this, just use this. Song Xiu gave a low hum. It's too easy to understand, too easy. Ji Fanyan really wanted to give this man an anti-seeking lesson. But then she thought that it would be better for the male client to be stupid, so she gave up the idea again, and concentrated on pouring the melted chocolate into the mold slowly, and followed the tutorial to cool it and set it. While waiting to cool down, Song Xiu suddenly talked about the past. At the farewell banquet that day, you said that my confession was sudden, but it wasn't. I liked you very early. Ji Fanyan blinked, remembering the special request Song Xiu made yesterday. He wanted to hear Ji Xingxin apologize for what he said 2 days ago. Although Ji Fanyan didn't know the specific content, she didn't have to get to the bottom of it. But it was Song Xiu's self-deception that he couldn't get it from Ji Xingxin, and instead found a phantom from the stand-in for comfort. He just wanted to deceive himself. And Ji Fanyan is charging to satisfy his wish. We have known each other for 4 years. 4 years in college. I have always liked you. Song Xiu lowered his eyes and said slowly, I chose that day to confess to you because I knew you were going to France, and you would meet more people. Maybe there will be someone you like. I don't want that. Ji Fanyan listened quietly to Song Xiu's confession without interrupting. You rejected me, it doesn't matter to me. Song Xiu paused for a moment before continuing, but you told me to stop this relationship on the phone that day. I don't like someone, it's not me. Controllable. Ji Fanyan finally understood what the two quarreled about that day. I'm sorry, she said softly, her voice as sweet as a siren singing. It was me who didn't take your feelings into account, it was disrespectful to you, and I apologize. Today is your birthday. I don't want you to be unhappy. I take back that sentence, and you don't get mad at me anymore. Okay. This man was like a fish that had been bitten on Ji Xingxin's hook, pierced his mouth, and struggled uselessly. Ji Xingxin's fishing line is not something he can break free. Even after the relationship was denied by the person he liked in person, Song Xiu couldn't cut off the relationship. He only cowardly chose Ji Fanyan as a safe haven. She even felt a little pity when Song Xiu met. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 100,000/Our Professional Stand-In. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 6. Song Xiu's eyes lit up slightly, and he subconsciously held Xiang Jifanyan's hand on the table. But the latter raised his hand faster than he did and stroked his hair. "You are my very important person, I don't want to lose you, Xiu." Song Xiu bowed his head obediently. "No." Jifanyan kept a smile at the corner of her mouth, smoothed twice on the man's soft hair. Her movements were as light as stroking a cloud, and she retracted it without even touching his scalp. But Song Xiu obviously didn't notice any difference, and he raised his head in a good mood. Jifanyan then knew that the customer's request for today was obviously completed. The service fee is in the pocket, and the next service time will not be too far away from the naked eye. After all, if a person indulges in the virtual world for too long, he may not be able to return to the real world. Accompanying Song Xiu until the chocolate was fully formed, Jifanyan learned to pack the chocolate and tie the bow on the gift box, and finally gave this disgusting and wishful chocolate to Song Xiu's expectant gaze. "Happy birthday," she said seriously. "I hope you can have such a happy birthday every year in the future. May not make enough money today next year, so let's maintain Song Xiu and see if we can grow customers." "Thank you." Song Xiu took the small box and pondered for a while. "I hope to spend every birthday with you in the future." Jifanyan smiled at him with her hands behind her back. "As long as you are willing, of course this wish can be realized." Song Xiu also smiled, and he put the box away like a treasure. "Are you hungry? Let's go have lunch." Lunch was Song Xiu's favorite restaurant, and Jifanyan ordered his favorite dishes in a soft-spoken manner. "In the afternoon, I went to read and chat in a quiet library." For a few hours, Jifanyan coaxed Song Xiu into joy. Another restaurant for dinner, a candlelit dinner with a violinist playing. In the end, the two went to a hard-to-get opera and sat in the seats with the best view. Jifanyan. "What a noble life, thank you for your hospitality." 15 hours of work almost disappeared in a flash. Song Xiu sent Jifanyan back to the community where Ji's family was located. Jifanyan noticed that the time displayed on the car was 11:20, as if Song Xiu had ended the day's appointment more than half an hour earlier. Probably because of the psychological shadow of being scared by the last countdown. That's like interrupting a man's orgasm. The car only stopped at the gate of the community. Song Xiu stopped the car silently, and glanced at the watch on his wrist. "Thank you for taking me home." Jifanyan dutifully made a return visit. "Did you enjoy your birthday today?" "I am very happy to have you by my side," Song Xiu replied in a low voice. His long eyelashes drooped down to cover his eyes, and his whole appearance was naturally stained with the melancholy inherent in his facial features. "If you can like me, it will be even better." Jifanyan blinked. "Isn't this a service option you've denied yourself?" "Of course, the service time is not over yet. It is very unprofessional to just scolding customers like this." So she turned to him and said, "Actually, I prepared another birthday present for you." Song Xiu's eyes turned to her immediately. "Really?" Jifanyan took out a jewelry box smaller than a palm from her bag. "Well, I bought it a few days ago." "Of course not. Just bought it yesterday." Song Xiu pursed his lips and took it carefully, hesitating for a few seconds before opening it. Opening his eyes slightly, "I sent you with me a pair of bracelets." Jifanyan stretched out her wrist and shook it in front of Song Xiu. She is wearing the bracelet that Song Xiu gave her yesterday, and it is the same series of men's models for Song Xiu. That is, a couple's model. Although it is a bit expensive, after all, Song Xiu gave him a lot, so he should give him a 9.9% discount. Jifanyan asked him in a nervous voice, "I think you should buy it if you like it. Do you like it?" Song Xiu moved his Adam's apple, and after a while he replied, "I like it." "Xingxin, can you put it on for me?" Of course. Jifanyan sent the Buddha to Zidi and put the bracelet on Song Xiu's wrist. "Then I'm leaving," she asked with a smile. Goodbye. After Ji Fanyan stepped out of the car, Song Xiu's car left almost without stopping. Ji Fanyan stood on the side of the road and watched him leave with sparks all the way, looking very fast, as if a ghost was chasing him. When Song Xiu's car tail completely disappeared, Ji Fanyan raised her eyebrows to touch the business smile, took out the phone and turned it off, and the countdown was about to start in 3 minutes. Man, tut. Knowing that he is dreaming, he will step into a stupid dream with one foot. Although Ji's house is behind her, Ji Fanyan must not be able to go back. She switched the taxi app and was about to call a taxi back to her rented house when a horn suddenly rang behind her. She turned her head to look and saw Daylight leaning on the motorcycle. He clearly saw the end from the beginning there. If you're looking for my sister, come here. Is invisible. Ji Fanyan kindly reminded him. Instead of being interrupted by her, Bai Tian frowned and asked, "Are you pretending to be her and doing something outside to ruin her reputation?" This brain circuit is excellent. Ji Fanyan tucked her long hair behind her shoulders in a leisurely manner. What is it to ruin your reputation? Didn't I say that in the morning? I'm working. Is there a man in that car just now? Bai Tian strode closer to Ji Fanyan. I asked you if you used the name Ji Xingxin to deceive men outside. You didn't dress up like this before, and you didn't even show your face. Come on. As soon as she left, she suddenly started to learn everything from her. Don't you want to use her identity to go out and swindle? When she comes back, you plan to use these things you do to insult her, don't you? Ji Fanyan pondered for a long time and asked humbly, what TV series have you watched recently? Normal people don't make up their minds here. Change the subject. Bai Tian stood in front of Ji Fanyan, like an angry little lion. Do you dare to say who was in the car just now? Business secrets. Ji Fanyan calmly rejected him. Can what you sell be considered a trade secret? Bai Tian asked sarcastically. Ji Fanyan sighed, and was too lazy to be angry with the child. Don't you like my sister? So what? Bai Tian squinted. I like her, but that doesn't mean I'll be tolerant towards you. Besides, you're still destroying her name. Then do you think she is someone like me who can act like me casually? Ji Fanyan asked. Bai Tian seemed to be suddenly choked by her question, and his cheeks were slightly red in embarrassment. Who knows what means you are going to use? Your face is exactly like hers. Let's put it this way, Ji Fanyan fooled him. Even if I'm pretending to be her, people who like her, like you, can't recognize at a glance that I'm a fake. Of course, Bai Tian choked immediately. No matter how much you learn from her, you can't become her. That's good, no one will be deceived by me. Am I just a clown? Ji Fanyan clasped his palms together. The person who was deceived by me must have a bad brain and not like it deeply enough, right? Daylight. The expression on his face looked like he wanted to nod, but he felt something was wrong. In the end he didn't nod, but threw a vicious warning. I know you must be planning something. I'll be watching you, don't let me catch it. Ji Fanyan watched the young man rumble away on a motorcycle, and calmly called a car on the spot with his mobile phone. Young people are really energetic. Saying it frankly, hasn't the body honestly accepted Song Xiu's introduction in the future? On the way home, Ji Fanyan deliberately opened the temptation to go home to see Song Xiu's emotional fluctuations today. During the service, she has always been very disciplined and will never look at her phone halfway through, so she picked up her phone for the first time after separating from Song Xiu. Apart from the little credit he had just made in the daytime, of course Song Xiu would not disappoint Ji Fanyan. His emotional fluctuations throughout the day could be described as very ups and downs, with dozens of details. The two biggest ones were in the chocolate factory and when I just said goodbye to an unexpected birthday present. This is not much different from Ji Fanyan's expectation. But when she was lying on the bed after washing up, and habitually looking at the account details for the last time, she suddenly found that there was another account at 1 o'clock. Song Xiu, 100,000, emotional. Ji Fanyan looked at it and laughed. At this time, with such a big mood swing, it seems that Song Xiu has recovered. Ji Fanyan unconcernedly switched the phone to Do Not Disturb mode, put it on the bedside table, closed his eyes and fell asleep. When Song Xiu left the Ji family's community, he almost stepped on the accelerator, as if he was escaping from the unremarkable countdown. As long as the bell can't be heard, it's as if, this dream will never end. It was as if the sweet-talking woman who saw only him in her eyes was really Ji Xingxin. After driving a few hundred meters, Song Xiu slowly slowed down and drove all the way home. 15 hours of this day are incomparably satisfying and sweet. But once it's over, the sweetness of contentment turns into empty irony. Song Xiu parked the car firmly in the garage, and did not get out of the car directly, but sat in the driver's seat and stared at the bracelet on his wrist for a long time. It was the birthday present that Xingxin bought for him, and she put it on for him by herself. Do not. It's Ji Fanyan. Song Xiu choked on his breath, his heart beating wildly like it was about to burst. He ripped the bracelet off his wrist almost furiously, opened the car door and slammed it out, making a series of clanging sounds. Until the sound stopped, Song Xiu's rapid panting did not calm down. He gritted his teeth and smashed the steering wheel, then jumped out of the car to get the chocolate in the back seat, rudely tore off the ribbon, and was about to throw the heart-shaped chocolate inside on the garage wall when the throwing stopped. One time in the end is not thrown out. So he went to look at Ji Fanyan on WeChat again, and deleted his friends without saying hello to her, and finally found a way to relieve the depression in his chest. He stared and looked at the chocolate, and finally took it and left the garage together. 100,000/Our Professional Stand-In. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 7. Ji Fanyan, who had worked 15 hours the day before, gave herself a leisurely vacation the next day. Don't ask why, just ask that Song Xiu must be offline temporarily. But it doesn't matter, he will come back again. Ji Fanyan's bank card is very rich at the moment, rich enough for her to immediately find a down payment for a real estate, but she is not in a hurry to buy a house, but calmly sits in the rental house and watches TV dramas for a day. During this period, Ji Xingxin called her once, and the chat was normal, and she talked about her daily life in France. By the way, Ji Xingxin asked at the end of the call, as if remembering something, I heard from Cheng Lin that they want to hold a party in the circle recently, but I can't make it through. Does my sister want to go and see it? Ji Fanyan thought about who this Cheng Lin was. Sister, don't you remember, Ji Xingxin reminded her in a low voice, when she was transferred to our school in the second year of high school, she was a very famous girl from a good family background. In the same university, I went to the English department. Ji Fanyan couldn't remember, she thought she was probably a passerby. But since high school and university are classmates with them, it means that the circle of friends and Ji Xingxin still overlap. Coupled with the wealth of the family, then there must be Ji Xingxin's fish in this party. Maybe expand the customer base. Ji Fanyan flipped through the calendar and asked casually, which day? Just the day after tomorrow. Is my sister interested? Ji Xingxin asked in surprise. I thought, then I'll pull you into the group. Okay, Ji Fanyan responded. After hanging up, Ji Fanyan was quickly pulled into a group by Ji Xingxin. Then Ji Xingxin said that it was time for her to go to bed, and said good night to everyone and went offline. Ji Fanyan glanced at the group announcement and found that the initiator had written down the time and location of the party in the announcement in an orderly manner. After recording the time and place in the calendar, she browsed the group members again. Not surprisingly, there was no one on her friend list. However, Ji Fanyan's friend list was originally very short, with only a handful of people. She didn't have many friends, and she didn't like crowds and socializing. Then, Ji Fanyan set the group to Do Not Disturb. Yucky at Ji Fanyan, you, coming to a party, No, no, why is your face so big? It seems like someone invited you. Tomorrow will also be full of energy. I looked through the chat records, Zinkson took hers. I don't care, that is, when we meet, everyone should dress a little more formally at Gfanyan Ideal, only people from the same class can participate. Can I invite the senior to come? Tomorrow will also be full of vitality, it depends on which senior. Ideal, of course, it is senior Song Shiu. I meet him occasionally, and ask him if he doesn't seem to come. Yucky, White Eyes Ji Zinkson is not here, can you please move senior Song? He heard that Gfanyan was also running away, right? Yucky, I won't name names, but some unpopular people should be a little self-aware. Li Bai, the thief, just ask, I happen to have something in the company I want to ask senior Song, it would be best if he can come at Ideal, okay, but he doesn't like to join the group, so I won't pull him when the time comes, I will say his answer in the group. Tomorrow will be full of energy, okay, I haven't seen Song Nanshan for a long time. I wonder if he is still as handsome as before. Does he have a girlfriend? Yucky, no, you don't surf the internet. On the day of Ji Zinkson's farewell banquet, senior Song sent roses on the spot, which was super romantic, but unfortunately it didn't work out. The person watching the show, sigh. Yucky, oh, but it doesn't mean that some people have a chance, right? Yucky at Gfanyan, are you pretending to be dead? Li Bai, thief slipped, okay, don't say a few words, Zinkson is still in this group and she will see it. Yucky, stop being funny, I'm afraid of her Ji Zinkson, you say it as if Ji Zinkson really went too far for Gfanyan. Yucky at Fanyan, come out, if you have the ability to join the group but have no ability to answer. Yucky, okay, don't answer me, don't show up tomorrow if you have the ability. Ideal, I wanted to ask if anyone could call out to the day, but after thinking about it carefully, let's forget it, who can easily invite his eldest young master? The next day, Gfanyan arrived at the party at the start time as usual. She wore a simple black dress with off shoulders, revealing her delicate shoulders and half of her collarbone. The party was set in the open-air garden of a Western restaurant. The host obviously booked the venue. After seeing Gfanyan, the waiter kindly stepped forward to ask if he was coming to the party organized by Chen Lin, and led her into it. Gfanyan saw several young women in the garden who were standing and chatting, each of which was more delicate and more expensive. Others sit or stand, seeming to have their own little circles. When the waiter brought Gfanyan into the garden, the women near the entrance noticed the two first. Ji Zinkson, one of them asked in shock, aren't you in France? Gfanyan glanced at the other party and said calmly, I'm Gfanyan. The sensation caused by the self-introduction was even greater than before, and the person who just asked aloud even gasped, how could Gfanyan look like this? Then what do you think Ji Zinkson's twin sister should look like? Gfanyan asked. The expressions on everyone's faces were a bit stunned. Gfanyan was about to pass them and sit down when she heard the voice of the waiter saying this way, please, from behind. She looked back to see who was more accurate than her time, only to see Song Shiu at a glance. Song Shiu was walking with another man of the same age. He lowered his head slightly to listen to the other person's words, his eyebrows and eyes were gentle and warm, and he was a man with a good family background and education. Oh, but Song Shiu's family education is indeed very good, but his personality is crooked. Gfanyan only glanced at it, and was about to turn his eyes away from Song Shiu without looking at it, when Song Shiu happened to raise his head, and his eyes collided with her. The next second, Song Shiu turned his head away. It was the movement of turning his head that was obviously a bit hasty to dodge. Gfanyan didn't care about him, she sat down and asked the waiter for a glass of lemonade. As soon as Song Shiu appeared, he immediately became the focus of the crowd, and everyone came forward to greet him enthusiastically. Ji Fanyan played with the phone and listened to the left ear and the right ear one after another, gaining a deeper understanding of the status of this group of people. If the family status is in the shape of a pyramid, Song Shiu is the top among this group of people, and the others are on the bottom floor, and of course their attitude towards him is very enthusiastic. Although Ji Fanyan did not join the dialogue, human beings are visual animals, so beauties always have preferential treatment. Ji Fanyan just held her chin and played lazily on her phone under the umbrella. She obviously didn't give anyone a glance, but her ignorant appearance made the people around her unconsciously cast their eyes on her. The sun cast a small patch of light on her fair shoulders, looking like a loving kiss tenderly etched by the sun. Someone was watching, and they couldn't help but go up and talk. Ji Fanyan? Long time no see, you've changed a lot, you're more outgoing than before. Ji Fanyan is still watching a cute pet video, in which the kitten is coquettishly turning over its belly to its owner, Rua. So when she raised her eyes, her expression was naturally soft. It's just a change of hairstyle. Male classmate. It's not just changing your hairstyle, you've changed your personality. Do you remember me? We were in the same class in high school, when I was the sports committee. Ji Fanyan smiled. Sorry, I don't remember. It's okay, we didn't talk much at that time. The male classmate immediately understood. He cleared his throat, and introduced himself with a blush. My name is Xiaoqi. Hello. Ji Fanyan stretched out a hand towards him with a relaxed attitude. Then let's just say we just met today. Xiaoqi was a little flattered for some reason. He stretched out his hand with a smile and shook Ji Fanyan. Next, Xiaoqi seemed to have opened the chatterbox. His chatting attitude gradually became natural, and he said some things about his work. Ji Fanyan put the phone down and rested her cheeks to listen to him. She looked a little careless, but her listening attitude was not at all perfunctory. It was the kind of atmosphere that made people know at a glance that she was listening carefully to what the other party said. For a while, the conversation between the two seemed to be unable to even get in the mouth of the others. Senior. Song Shiu came back to his senses and retracted his stray gaze from under the parasol by the side of the garden. He smiled apologetically. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. Yes, the other party scratched his hair. I was also a little scared. Ji Fanyan's hair is always messy. It seems that this is the first time I have seen what she looks like. She is too similar to Ji Xingxin. Someone next to him couldn't help but whispered, but it's only the faces. Ji Fanyan doesn't like to laugh very much. You can tell the two sisters apart with a few more glances. The senior likes Ji Xingxin, how could it be wrong? Song Shiu. Ji Fanyan shouldn't have a boyfriend, right? Someone asked eagerly. That kid Xiaoqi ran fast. I knew I was. You can go now, it's not difficult to join the chat, others urged him. But I seem to have coaxed and bullied her before, and it's not good to pretend to be nothing now. When a few young men were pushing each other with their elbows, Song Shiu interrupted them inadvertently. You said before that there was a group for this party. Yeah, the man who was being coaxed by his companion nodded suspiciously, but I thought that you don't like joining the group, senior, so I didn't pull you. Song Shiu. The more silent he is, the more dazed the young man standing in front of him is. What's the matter, senior? I remember correctly. Song Shiu lowered his eyes and took a sip of his soft drink. It's okay, I really don't like joining groups. This topic was brought up, and a few people chatted for a while, and suddenly someone lowered his voice. Hey, look over there. Song Shiu unconsciously raised his eyes to see where Ji Fanyan was sitting. Not far away, Xiaoqi and Ji Fanyan were taking out their mobile phones to scan each other's codes. Apparently they had a good chat and added friends in person. 100,000/our professional stand-in. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 8. Ji Fanyan certainly didn't mean to soak in Xiaoqi. After all, falling in love is a delay in making money, and it is not certain that any Quill customer will have an opinion on this. After confirming that Xiaoqi was not a fish that Ji Xingxin carefully raised, and assessing that the possibility of him being a leak is very low, Ji Fanyan only classified him as an ordinary friend. Multiple friends, multiple paths, go out and rely on friends. Xiaoqi knows so many people, who knows if he will also know leaks. However, after adding friends, Xiaoqi seemed to have accidentally caught a glimpse of Ji Fanyan's mobile phone, and said without any intention, "You have very few chat windows." Ordinary people's WeChat, at a glance, it is full of chat columns. Ji Fanyan's WeChat, 3 chat columns, all of which are blank below. "I don't like chatting very much," Ji Fanyan put away her phone, "can't you tell?" Xiaoqi was a little nervous, "Am I talking too much? If I don't want to hear you continue, you'll know." Ji Fanyan felt that his startled look was a bit like a hamster. Xiaoqi is very serious, "I am sometimes not very good at observing words. If you think I am too nagging, you can interrupt me at any time." Ji Fanyan was amused and laughed a little, causing Xiaoqi on the opposite side to be stunned for a moment, his ears turning red. "I won't make friends with people I hate," Ji Fanyan said with a smile. Xiaoqi relaxed, he looked at his watch, and wowed, "We've talked for so long. It's almost time for lunch." As soon as he finished speaking, a girl came over to inform everyone that they could go in for dinner. Ji Fanyan lowered her head slightly when she got up, and pushed her slipping hair behind her shoulders when she stood up straight. Song Xiu stared at her from time to time as if he saw Ji Xingxin chatting with others. His eyes were so hot that he almost saw a hole in her body. But Ji Fanyan just pretended not to see it. Song Xiu didn't give money again, and now he's too lazy to pretend to him. When men and women walked into the Western restaurant together, Xiaoqi still naturally followed Ji Fanyan and talked to her. Of course, most of the time he was talking, and Ji Fanyan listened. So, when Ji Fanyan walked to a random spot on the long table and stopped, Xiaoqi was still talking. Another person took advantage of this opportunity to open the chair for Ji Fanyan, who was sitting behind him, and helped her sit down quite gentlemanly. Ji Fanyan glanced back, saw that it was not a waiter, nodded and said thank you before sitting down. She was too accustomed to accepting the warm hospitality of others in this way. Instead, Xiaoqi widened his eyes and cast an angry look at the man behind Ji Fanyan, who ignored him and sat down on the other side of Ji Fanyan expressionlessly. When Ji Fanyan was slowly eating the salad, she realized that she had become the most noticeable presence on the table. Not only the men, but even the woman who seemed to be the convener, and the small group beside her had been pointing at her in a self-conceited way. Ji Fanyan pondered while chewing on the smoked salmon. 80% is Ji Xingxin's trouble, don't worry about it. The party meal is a Western-style meal. One dish is eaten almost before the next one. The number of people dining is large, and it is inevitable that the time will be a little delayed. Ji Fanyan ate slowly until the last dessert, a passion fruit cheesecake with vanilla ice cream balls. She took a sip and sipped her spoon with satisfaction, it was delicious. You can eat here again on vacation. Ji Fanyan was about to dig out the second scoop when a plate of intact cake was pushed to his right. When she turned her head to look, the man who hadn't said a word during the whole meal said, "Here you are." Ji Fanyan raised her eyebrows and smiled, "Thank you." Xiaoqi immediately followed, "Do you like it?" It happens that I, a big man, are not very interested in desserts. No, eating 3 servings will make you tired. Ji Fanyan thanked him for his kindness. Xiaoqi glared at the man beside Ji Fanyan again. However, the other party ignored him again. At this time, the organizer of the party, Cheng Lin, couldn't help but said loudly to the little sister beside her, "It's funny, these days, you can hook up men with bad eyes to show your hospitality." Ji Fanyan ate the cake attentively, ignoring her. "Cheng Lin." She gritted her teeth and said louder, "It's nice to have a pretty face." Then she saw Ji Fanyan just put a spoonful of cake into her mouth and looked up at her with a puzzled expression. As if asking, why does this person speak so loudly? The innocent look on Ji Fanyan's face was particularly moving and innocent. Chen Lin couldn't bear it any longer. Ji Fanyan, do you want me to call your name? Ji Fanyan blinked. I'm sorry, who are you? Stop pretending. Chen Lin slapped the spoon on the table with a slap. You dared to rub against the class reunion I proposed, and you don't even know who I am. Ji Fanyan suddenly said, are you the convener? The address is well chosen, and the restaurant is delicious. Chen Lin subconsciously said, thank you. It took a second to react, and I was furious. I'm scolding you. Ji Fanyan, no, you praise me for having a pretty face. That's Ji Xingxin's face. Chen Lin retorted unhappily. Ji Fanyan smiled, there are indeed people who will admit their mistakes. Song Xiu, who didn't join the conversation, said. Did she mean something against Sang and scold why? But I'm the older sister of the twins. Ji Fanyan shook the small silver spoon she was eating. I'm a day older than her. Is there such a thing? Xiao Qi on the side answered curiously. Because it happened to be midnight when I was born, although it was only half an hour away, it was a day away, Ji Fanyan explained to him. A girl on the opposite side couldn't help but join the conversation. Wow, it's amazing. So do you have to celebrate your birthdays for 2 consecutive days? Chen Lin, who was in trouble, suddenly lost her sense of existence. No, let's celebrate her birthday together, Ji Fanyan said. Xiao Qi. Chen Lin. Because of Ji Fanyan's answer, the table suddenly fell into the embarrassment of an adult's understanding, and even Song Xiu frowned slightly. After all, this answer, no matter how you look at it, is too pitiful. Ji Fanyan squinted slightly and finished the first piece of cake, changed the plate, and said easily, but I'm an older sister, so I should accommodate my younger sister. Xiao Qi, yes, is that so? Chen Lin clapped the table and stood up, can't you be a little bit ambitious? Everyone at the table looked at Chen Lin, who threw down the napkin and left the table in amazement. Ji Fanyan also looked at her back thoughtfully, so it's not a villain, but a knife-mouthed rectifier? This kind of person is most likely to be used as a gun in the palace fighting drama. Several of Chen Lin's friends went after her, and the atmosphere at the table was somewhat awkward. And Ji Fanyan calmly finished the second cake, got up and went to buy the order. Of course only paid her own share. It's not easy to make money. Although it doesn't affect the progress of temptation to go home to collect money when you spend it, you shouldn't be too reckless. Xiao Qi caught up and offered to drive her home, but Ji Fanyan refused him politely, I won't go home for the time being. Oh. Xiao Qi was a little lost, then, where are you going next? Can I come with you? Ji Fanyan thought for a while, and honestly discouraged him, where I go, you may not be interested. When she was doing her homework for a Western restaurant earlier, she noticed a video store nearby. After the advent of the internet era for all people, the existence of audio and video stores disappeared quickly. But as a film and television worker, Ji Fanyan has an unsurprising hobby, collecting movie discs. Most people have a study room, and Ji Fanyan has his own film display rack. There are everything in ancient and modern China and abroad. From the perspective of collection, it is very valuable. Of course, it's all gone now. After changing a world, Ji Fanyan searched the internet and found that this world is similar but different from her own world. The most obvious point is that this world has many excellent film and television works that her world does not have. It was like discovering a brand new treasure trove, and Ji Fanyan was full of interest. It doesn't matter, I have a wide range of interests. Xiao Qi immediately cheered up again, how do you know if you like it if you don't try it? This person didn't even want the car parked on the side of the road, and Ji Fanyan felt that there was no need to forcefully reject him. Okay. The audio and video store is not far away, Just need to cross a flyover and a traffic light. Ji Fanyan walks to the destination. Thinking that she will be able to enter a new ocean of movies soon, her steps are brisk. But just as she was waiting at the traffic light, Song Xiu's phone called. Ji Fanyan raised her eyebrows and answered the phone. Is something wrong? I don't like you using her face to date other men. Song Xiu's voice came from the other end of the phone. See me in half an hour. No, Ji Fanyan rejected him bluntly. Today is my day off. If you want to see me, remember to make an appointment early next time. Do you really think you are so popular? Song Xiu said mockingly. Xiaoqi likes Xingxin. Ji Fanyan didn't care. She turned her head in the opposite direction of Xiaoqi, covered the microphone and asked Song Xiu in an angry voice, then do you think he will do the same thing as you? Song Xiu didn't respond, but this fairly secluded intersection was enough for Ji Fanyan to hear his heavier breathing at that moment. Ji Fanyan laughed, and she returned to her normal volume. My phone will be muted for a while. If you need it, just contact me on WeChat. I'll reply when I'm done. She waited politely for a few seconds, didn't hear Song Xiu's words, said goodbye politely and hung up the phone. The light is green, Xiaoqi asked curiously, is it a work thing? Ji Fanyan turned the phone to silent mode, and nodded, yes, a big client with a lot of money. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 100,000/Our Professional Stand-In. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 9. The movie is so good. Ji Fanyan couldn't help but sigh. That day, she bought a lot of Blu-ray discs in the video store. When she got home, she turned her mobile phone to silent, and watched the whole sky without eating and sleeping. She didn't talk to anyone except for takeout. After watching the movie he bought in one go, Ji Fanyan took another long sleep, and only after waking up did he check the news on his phone. Xiaoqi guessed that she was watching a movie, and he tentatively asked twice if she had finished watching it. Ji Xingxin made a phone call, and after she didn't get through, she seemed habitually left a message asking if she was busy and when it was convenient to call. 2 sales calls. Song Xiu also made a phone call on the day of the party, but there was no follow-up. Ji Fanyan's social circle is just that big. She replied to the news of Xiaoqi and Ji Xingxin, stretched her waist to start a new day, and was a little curious about how Song Xiu was so quiet. On the one hand, it is occupational disease, and on the other hand, it is the current job needs. Based on the information in his hands, Ji Fanyan has deeply analyzed Song Xiu. Song Xiu is actually a bit of a perfectionist. He likes and is used to showing his perfect side. Over time, everyone's impression of him becomes perfect. The problem is, there are no perfect people in this world. Maybe adults wear masks to socialize more or less, but Song Xiu's mask is particularly thick. Even in front of Ji Xingxin, Song Xiu's mask never took off. Maybe I'm a little bit afraid of the consequences of revealing my less than perfect side. But Ji Fanyan gave Song Xiu a chance to smooth out his fears and create a dream that even if you are not so perfect, Ji Xingxin will like you. After coming down twice, it stands to reason that this big fish should not be unhooked again. Maybe Song Xiu has been too busy with work recently? Ji Fanyan thought about it, looked at the balance of her bank account, and decided not to just stare at the wool of a sheep for the time being. Xiaoqi just replied to the message and exchanged her thoughts on the movie. Ji Fanyan bought several movies that he recommended. The two chatted for a while. Xiaoqi said that a new movie was released and asked her if she wanted to watch IMAX together. There are a few friends who like movies, if you don't mind, Xiaoqi said. Ji Fanyan, who had no schedule, thought about it and agreed. It's just a schedule for watching a movie. She didn't spend much time dressing herself up. She changed into a shirt, vest, and jeans in the afternoon and went out. When he met the crowd in front of the cinema, Ji Fanyan found that there was only Xiaoqi there. Xiaoqi held 4 tickets in his hand and smiled a little embarrassedly. The two of them said that they won't come, and there are 2 more tickets, only the two of us are left to watch. Ji Fanyan raised her eyebrows, not surprised by this little trick. Whether it's Xiaoqi's self-editing or acting, or his two friends want to match up, in short, the status quo is a broad and profound 4 words. It's all here. Ji Fanyan walked to the snack counter. You bought the ticket, I'll buy the food. What do you drink? Xiaoqi refused, but the two asked for a 2-person viewing package together. The movie is really good, and Xiaoqi is also a qualified movie friend. The two were discussing the content of the movie harmoniously when they came out of the cinema, but Ji Fanyan suddenly noticed a prying gaze. After being a celebrity for so many years, Ji Fanyan somewhat has a sixth sense for the camera. She raised her head subconsciously and looked around, but couldn't find the camera facing her. But this does not prevent Ji Fanyan from making a simple reasoning. For example, just a few days ago someone made a declaration like "I'll be watching you" in front of her. Bai is obviously the most suspected person. With his character, it's not impossible to do it. That house is downstairs, let's go eat and see. Ji Fanyan, Xiaoqi called her suspiciously beside him. Ji Fanyan retracted her gaze and glanced at her phone. Try it, you don't have to work now anyway. Thank you for recommending a movie to me last time, I'll treat you today. When women say "I invite you" and "we outright," most of the time the suitor can still understand what it means. Xiaoqi touched his nose. Then next time I invite you. Okay, if there is a chance. Ji Fanyan didn't say anything, and Neptune represented no friends. Xiaoqi was talking about a new Thai-style hot pot that has been open for a few months. There are endless customers, and the business is very hot. The hot and sour tom yum kung pot bottom is used to rinse seafood, which is even more unique. After a meal, Ji Fanyan finally found a candid shooter based on his previous professionalism, not by himself, but a middle-aged man who was ordinary in appearance and dress. The middle-aged man entered the store shortly after her and Xiaoqi. He ate hot pot alone, and hadn't eaten much during the whole process. He secretly raised his mobile phone several times to shoot in the direction of the two. Probably the kind of private detective who specializes in helping people investigate family disputes, husbands and wives, and men and women cheating, right? After paying the order, Ji Fanyan sucked the last sip of the coconut smoothie and casually thought about the next step. I'll take you home, Xiaoqi asked. I'm driving. Ji Fanyan shook the car key at him. Xiaoqi swept to her car. There was a sign on the key and frowned. It may be a bit offensive to say that, but I wanted to say it last time when you talked about your birthday. I remember that Ji Xingxin drives a Porsche. Are your family members a little biased? As long as the car can drive. Ji Fanyan stood up indifferently. Not all 4 wheels. Although Ji's father and Ji's mother were a bit stingy, the car he bought for Ji Fanyan was a BMW of 300,000 yuan, and it was also covered by insurance, which was very good. Xiaoqi walked with Ji Fanyan all the way to take her to the car in the underground parking lot, scanned the code and paid the parking fee for her before waving goodbye to her. Ji Fanyan deliberately slowed down and left, but on the way home, he found a dusty car behind him. Then she must have known about what happened with Xiaoqi today. What to do next? Ji Fanyan weighed several countermeasures, and finally called Song Xiu using the car's Bluetooth. I'm done. Did you call me a few days ago to make an appointment? Song Xiu's voice was low and vague. What are you busy with? Make a man. I don't need to explain my personal life to you, right? Ji Fanyan calmly drove into the empty parking space on the side of the road. But you may have superfluous ideas, so I'll just say it straight, I don't have the time and interest right now. Song Xiu was silent for a while. It's 9 o'clock, then he said, you'll meet me at the bar now. Ji Fanyan thought for a while. Before she used the same rest day excuse as last time, Song Xiu added the next sentence before her. Double, he said. and rushing to actively increase the price. Ji Fanyan looked at the time, 3 hours of prosperity. What about after midnight? Ji Fanyan really thought about this question, 0 to 3 and 5 times, 3 to 9 10 times. After all, she also needs adequate rest, and overtime pay is always very expensive, otherwise how can she have the motivation to work overtime? It was probably the price of this dragon-slaying knife that persuaded Song Shiu, and he did not ask for an extension of the service time. Ji Fanyan turned on the phone, "Send me the address, I'll go there now." Song Shiu was silent for a while, then opened his mouth to announce the name of a bar, "You navigate by yourself." Ji Fanyan, are you too lazy to send a message? However, she still had a good temper and tried the vague pronunciation of the name Song Shiu said a few times, and soon found the bar on the map and drove out of the parking space. At the same time as navigation started to work, Song Shiu's money was also credited to her account. Ji Fanyan glanced at the text message that popped up at the top of the phone, and then looked at the rear-view mirror. Sure enough, the gray private detective car was adorned behind her again. She smiled lightly, still a little curious about how things would go after this. It looks a little exciting. But who doesn't like the occasional thrill in life? Mr. Bai, the private detective, tried to keep a low profile behind the BMW, while quietly calling the customer. This time, the situation has changed. We just reported to you that she was going home after separating from the man. The direction went, but she stopped for a few minutes halfway, and then changed the route. We followed her for 15 minutes, and she diverted to a bar, and the photo has been sent to your mailbox. The day on the other end of the phone had just finished exercising. He opened a bottle of energy drink, bent down slightly, checked emails on the computer, opened a series of photos to browse, and asked, "She went in alone?" "Yes. But this store is a membership system, and not everyone can enter. According to our investigation, Miss Ji Fanyan should have never been to such a place and held a membership card before. She may have been invited." Baijiu heard the words and looked at the photo again from the end to the beginning, carefully observing the details other than Ji Fanyan. Soon, his eyes fell on a car that was only half shot. The teenager frowned. "What's the license plate number of the blue and black Audi in the VIP parking space near the bar?" The detective quickly reported it. Bai Tian remembered clearly, that was the car that took Ji Fanyan to Jijia community a few days ago. He stared at Ji Fanyan's back in the photo and sneered, "Check who this car belongs to, and tell me if you find it." After giving the order, he hung up the phone and went into the shower. Of course, there are many ways for Baijiu to check a license plate number, but such a small private detective also naturally has his own way to check it. For Baijiu, there is no need to alarm people he knows, only Hua penalty is required, which is very convenient. The detective really quickly called back to Bai Tian, "Mr. Bai, I found it." Dai drinks water with a dry towel on his head. "What's that man's name?" The detective's voice was also a little incredible, "Song Shiu." Bai Tian's movements paused, "Renamed?" "No, it's that Mr. Song." Bai Tian was stunned for 2 seconds before he realized what happened. He cursed and threw the towel on the table. "I'll go over now, keep an eye on the two of them, and tell me immediately if anyone leaves." 100,000/Our Professional Stand-In. Author, Yuan Yao. Chapter 10. When Bai Bai saw Ji Fanyan getting out of someone else's car a few days ago, she guessed that she was looking for a man. Originally, what Ji Fanyan was doing had nothing to do with him, but Ji Fanyan's dress that day was obviously an imitation of Ji Xingxin, which made Bai Tian wonder if the other party was pretending to be Ji Xingxin to fish for Kaizi. That damaged Ji Xingxin's reputation. So in the daytime, he found a private detective to investigate. Who would have guessed that Ji Fanyan's college classmate was, even if she had been in it, and she even hooked up with Song Shiu. The person who kept saying that the person he liked was Ji Xingxin's Song Shiu. In the daytime, he was so angry that he didn't care that he had just taken a shower and his hair was still dry. He rode his motorcycle and drove all the way to the bar that the private detective told him. He walked in aggressively, as if he had just found out that his girlfriend was cheating, and rushed to the scene angrily. The jealous husband who catches rape. The sturdy security guard at the door dutifully stopped him. Minors are not accepted. Bye-bye frowned and slapped his ID card on the other person's chest, and made a phone call. Was it? Is the K and bar yours? Ask someone to come out and take me in. Of course, it's not that the day can't break in with other tough methods, but that's too obvious. If Song Shiu and Ji Fanyan noticed him, they would definitely run away with a guilty conscience, so it would be meaningless for him to come all the way. So Bai Tian went to find a second-generation ancestor he knew, and it didn't take long for a man in a suit to look like a manager to come out to welcome Bai Tian in. The manager on duty smiled enthusiastically. Bai Xiao is here, I'll arrange a booth for you. I'm looking for someone. Bai Tian stood near the door with a cold face and looked at the bewitched men and women in the bar. Where is Song Shiu? The duty manager was stunned for a moment and asked tentatively, are you looking for Mr. Song for a personal matter? Bai Tian sneered, yes, a private matter. Did another beautiful woman come to him just now? The manager on duty had a clear expression on his face. Oh, I was caught by the green. No matter how rich you are, there is no way to tie your girlfriend's heart, alas. He sighed in his heart and asked, Master Bai, I don't want to disclose the privacy of the guests at will. Do you think this will work? I'll let people go now. Bai Tian didn't have the patience to listen to his nonsense. I still have patience, don't waste my time. The manager on duty had no choice. He thought for a while and whispered, Mr. Song also has a big business, we can't afford to provoke it. I will take you to the monitoring room to watch, and when they are gone, you can talk to Mr. Song again. What do you think? Bai Tian, who just wanted to quickly see what the shameful things Song Shiu and Ji Fanyan were doing, nodded impatiently and affirmed this risk-averse plan. The duty manager breathed a sigh of relief, and took the day to the monitoring room. A place like a bar and nightclub must be full of surveillance cameras. Alcohol is inherently attractive. This kind of place has a large flow of people and many eyes, and monitoring can often provide protection and help for bars. A well-known bar like K and can't relax in terms of safety. The monitoring room was much quieter than the outside, rubbed his ears in the daytime, stood in front of a pile of screens, and began to look for the positions of Song Shiu and Ji Fanyan. The manager on duty was much more experienced than him, and quickly pointed to a window. This is their box. Bai Tian's eyes locked on the window immediately, and in the somewhat blurred surveillance screen, he saw Ji Fanyan and Song Shiu sitting in a row. The two of them really came here to meet. Daylight almost immediately wanted to rush to the box and beat them both up, but he calmed down a bit before taking action. He suddenly thought that if Song Shiu can really empathize and leave love, doesn't it mean that Song Shiu is not qualified to continue to be Ji Xingxin's suitor? Even if Song Shiu was just killing time with Ji Fanyan's face, it was enough for the news to reach Ji Xingxin's ears. In this way, not only should they not be interrupted, but they should be allowed to continue their relationship longer and leave evidence. During the day, he put his mobile phone in his pocket and took out the surveillance footage. He moved his eyes slightly for 2 minutes, and remembered the box number written in the corner of the surveillance camera. After this surveillance video, Song Shiu was speechless. The duty manager stood behind daylight watching him film, pretending that he didn't see anything. After a long period of filming in the daytime, I felt tired, so I found a chair and sat down, as if to be stationed for a long time. Bring me something to drink. Ji Fanyan and Song Shiu had to talk for dozens of minutes when they said less, and they couldn't miss a single shot during the day. The manager on duty quickly brought drinks, opened a bottle of beer during the day, and stared at the surveillance screen while drinking. Looking at it, he began to feel that something was wrong. The Ji Fanyan in the picture, How do you see how every move is so similar to Ji Xingxin? Drink less, your body will feel uncomfortable, Ji Fanyan advised Song Shiu. Before she came, she heard from the phone that Song Shiu was already a little drunk. Obviously, Song Shiu had not stopped during the journey. Even in the slightly dark environment of the box, you could see the slight redness on his face. Of course Ji Fanyan didn't care whether Song Shiu fainted from drunkenness, that would save effort. But Ji Xingxin still has to pay attention. Song Shiu opened a bottle of Xianxi, and he had an ice bucket in his hand that he ignored. Brandy at 40 degrees was like iced black tea. He poured it directly into the cup and drank it one at a time. Just when Song Shiu reached for the bottle and poured a glass, Ji Fanyan took the lead to remove the bottle, and she asked softly, "Is there something wrong? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Although I can't help you solve the problem, but at least you will feel better when you say it, won't you?" When the wine failed, Song Shiu looked up at Ji Fanyan. After she finished speaking, Song Shiu asked an irrelevant question, "Why are you going to France?" "Of course, because the domestic fish are tired of playing." Ji Fanyan smiled, and she avoided difficulties and poured a glass of water for Song Shiu. "Am I not with you now?" When Song Shiu didn't drink, he asked again stubbornly, "Why go to France?" Seeing Song Shiu's appearance of not giving up until he got the answer, Ji Fanyan thought about it before answering him. "The people around me are all excellent, I want to be as good as them. When you fall, you can only watch your backs. But now, it's me looking at your back." After Song Shiu finished speaking, he stretched out his arms and grabbed the wine bottle back. He poured half a glass silently, raised his head and drank it all at once. "It's not like I'm not coming back." Ji Fanyan held her chin to watch Song Shiu drink her own wine. "Aren't you willing to wait for me?" Song Shiu raised his eyes and glanced at her with dark eyes. "Why should I wait for someone who doesn't like me?" Ji Fanyan thought to herself, "How can I know what you guys are thinking? Junior high school students all know that licking a dog until the end has nothing. But if you like me too, of course I will wait for you." Song Shiu stared at her. "As long as you like me too." Ji Fanyan looked at him with a non-committal smile. "Do you want me to like you?" Song Shiu held the wine glass and turned it gently for half a circle before nodding with determination, "Yes." He paused and added, "Ji Xingxin likes Song Shiu." Ji Fanyan added this requirement to the service item. "Okay." Song Shiu's eyes were still firmly fixed on her face, as if it was a silent urging. So Ji Fanyan satisfactorily met the requirements of Party A. "Of course I also." She slightly avoided her eyes as if feeling shy, bit her lip lightly to gather enough courage to confess, "I like you too. But learning is right. It's also very important to me, about my study abroad. Don't you get mad at me, okay?" Song Shiu's slightly drunk eyes were more stunned than before. "How could I be mad at you?" he said almost with a sigh. "If you just smile at me, I don't even remember my name." Probably the biggest depression in his heart was temporarily relieved. Song Shiu, who was a little bit drunk just now, was so drunk that he collapsed on the sofa in the box. Before midnight, Ji Fanyan poured herself a glass of water and sat beside Song Shiu slowly and waited for the service time to end. Unlike many people waiting to get bored, Ji Fanyan didn't look at her phone. She held the clean water glass in her hand and turned it slowly, as if she was calculating something. During this period, Song Shiu murmured something in a dream. Ji Fanyan leaned over and gently smoothed his frown, and said softly, "Sleep, I'll be by your side." Song Shiu shook her hand half asleep, and Ji Fanyan skillfully avoided the other party. Not long after, the countdown reminder sounded. Ji Fanyan quickly took out his mobile phone to stop the alarm, but did not wake up Song Shiu. At the end of the service time, her face relaxed. The boss leaned on the back of the sofa, stretched his arms and rang the service bell to call someone in to check out. As an important customer, Song Shiu can of course sign the bill, which also saves Ji Fanyan the trouble of digging out his bank card from his wallet. "You're leaving," Seeing Ji Fanyan getting up with her bag, apparently planning to leave alone, the waiter's expression was indescribable. Then Mr. Song. Call a chauffeur to take him home, the cost is also on the account, he won't deny it. Ji Fanyan pointed to Song Shiu, do you know his address? If you don't know, I'll tell you. Her questioning attitude was too natural, and the waiter replied subconsciously, ah, there is indeed a registered address in the membership profile. That's it. Ji Fanyan nodded towards the other party and glanced at the camera before walking out of the box. Just as Ji Fanyan left the room on the front foot, the back foot caught up in the daytime. But he just drank too much in the monitoring room, and his head was a little dizzy for a while, and he almost missed Ji Fanyan who was leaving, and finally had time to stop her who had just gotten in the car. Ji Fanyan, who was wearing his seat belt, lowered the car window with a calm attitude, young Master Bai is also here for a drink. Don't come, Bai Tian sneered and held the mobile phone that captured the surveillance video in front of her, I've already filmed what happened to you and the surname Song just now. Really? Ji Fanyan also laughed, have you captured something good? Bai Tian snorted, I've never seen you so rushing to be a substitute. What can Song Shiu give you? You know that the person he likes is not you at all. He doesn't give me anything but money. Ji Fanyan was amused by the teenager, didn't I tell you that day? I'm working. After Ji Fanyan finished speaking, she lightly flicked the hand that Bai Tian had on her car door, and the latter threw it away like an electric shock, allowing her to slowly raise the car window again. She smiled and waved her fingers frivolously to the day through the car window, I can't disclose the privacy of customers. If you are curious, just ask Song Shiu. The introduction of customers to each other is much more attractive than door-to-door sales.